Okay, so welcome to week 5, everyone. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so this week we are going to discuss the places that you have chosen to sell your work, and also we're going to talk a little bit about the job market outlook, which um, I'll be honest, it's not great news for a lot of us, which is why I've been sort of guiding you toward more self employment and thinking of yourself as a business of one. In conjunction with discussing your branding, your personal business, and how to get your products and just getting yourself out there, I wanted to briefly introduce you to a potential art project that you could get involved with here in Wayne County. And I think that it's not limited to Wayne County residents. So even if you're outside of Wayne County, you could participate in this opportunity called the Women's Fund of Wayne County. What the Women's Fund does is they get donations and they create opportunities for women. So they provide, I don't know, this is kind of generic, but they provide grants for women and girls to do things like take classes or get certifications, etc. So there is a artist opportunity. They do this luncheon. What it does, it's an art auction basically. So it's a silent art auction featuring local artists. Um, let's see. Well, I'm trying to find the information for the artists themselves. If I can't find it here, I will let you know if you're interested. I get a letter every year that basically says, hey, this is the theme this year. Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. But if you're interested in this, I haven't done it in the last couple years, but I'm going to try to enter a piece this year. You submit your work, and it has to be something that can be displayed. So, it has to be some kind of physical work or ability for people to access it in some way. And they display it on a table, and people come and they bid on your artwork. And there are cash prizes. One year I won $250. I think they go like $250, $150. Um, and the theme this year is illuminating pathways. Uh, and it's a wide interpretation. And in fact, you don't really have to do anything based on the theme. But if you're interested in donating a piece of art and having it in an auction, I think that would be a good opportunity. It's a really low barrier to entry. It's not a judged contest. You can just put your work in and get people looking at your artwork. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me and I will get you all the contact info. I strongly suggest that you look for these opportunities. For one thing, it's inspiring, it gives you a goal, and it helps you generate more product for yourself. And then it's just really helpful for networking and getting to know people and getting your art out there. So let me know if you're interested in participating in the Women's Fund. So going into week 5, I want to open with a short video. Let me see if I can find it. Here's the link. So this is a TikTok video of a job coach that I follow, and I think she has some really good advice. Let me go ahead and pull this up.
This comment on my AI TikTok yesterday literally kept me up all night. All night. And I had to think, why was this really hitting me? And it's because for 20 years as a job search career coach, I've been trying to help people understand that they are not employees, they are businesses of one. Businesses here in the US, I can only speak here in the US where I live, are built to make money. That's our system. And while there are some amazing business founders and CEOs out there who truly care about their employees and creating jobs, who are incentivized by creating jobs, that is what drives them, they're a pretty small percentage. There's a much larger percentage that are also businesses one, because we all are, who are building bigger businesses. So when you work for a company, you're a smaller business of one selling your services to a bigger one. And the only way to move forward and stay competitive is to get smarter about how you run your business of one. Because you're in business for yourself, but you don't have to be in business by yourself. If you come together with other businesses of one and you get smarter, knowledge is power. And I'm going to give you an example. Coming out of the pandemic, I was so wound up about this because, we had this huge tipping point. The great quit was going on. People wanted to be purpose driven. And that was exciting to see people waking up, but they didn't go the next step, which is to understand the new rules to career growth. One of them being you are a business of one. Another one being that every job is temporary, okay? And so I ended up writing a 50-page manifesto and putting it on Amazon. It's called Workplace Renegade. And in it, I walk you through these new rules, these new realities. And that's what I've been coaching to ever since. And that's why I'm on this app this year announcing that I want to help 10 million people get new, better paying jobs in spite of it being a really trying economy. Because it's actually not rocket science or brain surgery, because trust me, I would not be teaching it if it was. I am not that smart. But as a former staffing and recruiting executive who's spent 2+ decades of her life now hopping to the other side and being an advocate for the worker, every time I teach people these things and I reset their expectations, the game changes for them. Doors open up for them. You have so many assumptions. Society has ingrained into your brain about what work is and jobs are, and how to get ahead, that are literally holding you back. And they're conditioned. Those have to be completely broken down and rebuilt. And that's why those new rules to career success are so vital. Like, again, the first 2 rules. You're a business of one, and every job is temporary. And it just goes from there. And so how do I turn around and ask all of you, how do I get more people to understand this? How do I get more of you to become workplace renegades? How do I bring us together? That's why I'm on this app. That's what I'm hoping this app will do. Because if I can scale what I'm teaching you all, this will learn and travel, and people will play the game differently. You've got to set standards and values and collectively hold to them in order to negotiate and get what you want. Because remember, that business that you're trying to sell your services to, if you present your UVA, your unique value add, the right way, they want you. You sit in the driver's seat. And this is what we all need to learn, but we haven't been taught it. School didn't teach it to us, okay? And society is, and candidly, businesses want us to all think a certain way. So you got to become a workplace renegade. You've got to think differently, act differently, get different results. Because as this very brilliant comment states, businesses aren't in the business of creating jobs. They're not incentivized to create jobs. They're incentivized to make profits by their shareholders and by the owners of their companies. And this is why AI is becoming so popular. Because if you talk to a lot of managers and executives, they will tell you managing people is not fun. They don't want to manage people. They'd rather get rid of people and use technology. And so this is a big deal, folks. I mean, literally, it's why it keeps me up at night, because I know how many people right now need to really learn this stuff and go about it differently, or they're going to suffer. And I don't want to see them suffer. I don't want to see you suffer. So please, if this helped you, can you help me back? It is free. Again, I'm on this app trying to help 10 million.
Okay, so part of this, of course, is a shill for her own personal business, which is helping other people get jobs. But she presented a few different concepts in there that I want to talk about. The first one being, you are a business of one, even though you are perhaps trying to get a job for a corporation. You still have to think of yourself as your own business. And the other thing she talked about was your UVA, your unique value add. And I want to know if you've ever heard that term before, or what does it mean to you. So I just want to throw that open for discussion. How many of you have ever thought of it this way, that you are not just looking to be an employee, but you are actually a business of one?
It's it's been a minute, honestly. When my mom offers me work, she places it on the table like that of a business of one type deal because she does a lot of she pulls a lot of gig work, like she grabs like one-off jobs for other people to take, like if she can't handle the job quite right.
So, what kind of jobs does your mother bring to your attention?
Stuff like video editing and other music based, anything in Premiere mostly.
Okay. So you're somewhat familiar with the whole gig economy and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Spencer, what do you think about all this? Spencer, are you with us? Okay, let's come back. Colton, how about you?
I think like subconsciously I have thought of it this way, but I've more so thought about it recently whenever I've been working on logos independently for people. It definitely feels like, for lack of better terms, I'm like I am my own boss and I'm like doing this myself.
What if you were to get a job
By
for
now,
a?
it's not exactly
I'm
what are
sorry.
you gonna say?
Um, what if you were to get a job for another company? Would you still think of yourself that way as a business of one?
I think I would definitely think of it as like I am giving them my skill sets. So yeah, probably I would think of it that way.
Good. I obviously grew up in a different generation. My father worked in a factory. He was in the union. He had a pension. He got out of high school, did a short stint in the Air Force, got out of the Air Force, walked right into the factory that day, and was hired immediately because that's just kind of how it worked back then. You go to work in the factory where your dad worked, and they get you on, you get a union job, and he raised a whole family on his union salary. My mother didn't really work outside the home. If she did, it was just like, house cleaning jobs on the side for extra money. So back in the 70s, a person could raise a family that way. My boyfriend Sean talks about the small town where he grew up. Even the person who was a line cook at the local restaurant raised a family of four on one salary. That just doesn't happen in this economy anymore. But I'm Gen X. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I was always fed the story that you go to work for a company and the company takes care of you as long as you're loyal and you're a hard worker. That has dramatically changed in the last 15 to 20 years. Um, Corporations are increasingly looking at nothing but the bottom line. And as she said, if they can cut jobs and replace you, they absolutely will. And it's a high churn, a high turnover environment. So I think you have to go into any negotiation for a job with that in mind. As she said, that it is temporary, that you are negotiating for yourself as a business of one, and that you cannot expect them to be looking out for you. And I wish I had known this a little bit more when I started my career. I was still kind of working in the older model, and it took me a while of getting beat up in the corporate world before I realized some of these things. So you guys kind of are, I think, more adapted to this model than perhaps my generation was. You also have a lot more access to news and social media and trends that are happening. So I just kind of wanted to make you aware of it. The other thing I think that she briefly mentioned on, and you can do more exploration of this, is your UVA, your unique value add. So you have to think about what is it that you bring to the table that makes people want to hire you. And if you don't know what that is, you really need to work on that, because if you don't bring something unique and valuable to the table, you don't even get your foot in the door for an interview. So now is the time to start developing that UVA, that unique value add, which is why I'm trying to get you acclimated to the process of thinking of yourself as a business of one and coming up with your own products and developing your portfolio and your own skill set. So I wanted to flip over to a news article I read recently. How many of you have heard about all the layoffs going on in the game dev industry?
Yeah, Riot just recently laid off a ton of people.
Yeah, Microsoft, Blizzard, I mean, they're all laying off people. Wizards of the Coast got rid of a lot of their art department. Um, so, more than 6,000 games industry jobs have been eliminated since the start of the year. Um, so, there were 800 jobs eliminated by Epic Games. The list just kind of goes on and on. They're basically saying uh, last year was pretty unstable. So, uh, developers are turning to Discord groups, LinkedIn, etc., to find a new job, while realizing that their laid off friends are now all in the same search. So it's you're competing in a market where there's already a bunch of people competing. They said, I'm literally competing with some of my best friends. So, also, tech layoffs are disproportionately affecting women, which women already had a lot of headwinds, and now it's getting worse again. Um, so, it's just pretty grim news. Um, so, we're seeing a lot of that happening in the tech sector in general. So, what do you guys think that means for you in terms of getting your degree and trying to get out and get a job?
I think I've always looked at it as an uphill battle for me, so it's nothing new for me, and I'm just going to keep trying.
Well, that's a good attitude. Um, I wanted to present this opportunity for you to think about developing your own businesses as a way to sort of insulate yourself from these headwinds that are coming through the tech sector. I mean, you've got competition from AI, you've got competition from a bunch of other people in the market because of job layoffs. So, if you're having trouble landing a full time job, at least you're doing other things that continue to sharpen your skills, hone your unique value added uh, probability, all of these things that can help keep you be motivated and relevant in that marketplace. Um, so it is kind of grim. I can't really tell you that it's all sunshine and roses, but I can hopefully prepare you for what you'll be facing when you graduate. So those are just some things I kind of wanted to set up the discussion today. Um, so let's jump into your papers that you wrote about the places that you're going to sell your work. And what I wanted to do is just have each of you talk a little bit about what your product is and where you've decided to sell it. So I don't need to share my screen anymore for this part. If you want to share your screen, you can. If you don't really have anything to share at this point and you just want to talk, that's fine. Um, but what I wanted to do is just kind of go through the papers that you turned in. So if you have that paper in front of you or just kind of want to talk off the cuff, the assignment was to write a brief paper listing 3 avenues that you would consider to market your product or use for your freelancing, and list the pros and cons, and finally pick one that you think is best and why. Um, so I'll just have each of you talk a little bit about, remind us what your product is, what are the places that you looked at, and which one did you choose and why. Um, so let's see. Emma, let's start with you.
So I don't know if I did this right. I feel like I did this a little wrong now. But I kind of changed up what my products would be. I still kept stickers, but I put down audio sound assets and selling 3D models. And to market these products, I said I'd probably use social media or my portfolio website or to stream what I'm making. Uh, so yeah.
Okay. So I think it would be helpful to first narrow down your product. Have you decided on what product you want to focus on?
I think either it either be the 3D models or the stickers.
Does anyone have any thoughts on which one Emma should go towards?
I think the stickers is the good idea.
And why do you think that?
Uh, no, I don't know what Emma exactly does, but she's definitely more of a standard 2D artist. So I feel like if you're gonna make something for products, you'd want to go with your best skill forward instead of maybe trying to learn a new one as the first product, or go something that's either second or third on your list of skills. As well as if you're gonna stream it, people love normal 2D art. It's like some of the people's favorite thing. There are a lot of people that'll just scroll through Twitch or YouTube looking for art streams.
I
Okay, then
I
I'd probably go with stickers, I guess.
I tend to agree with Oliver in that I think for this assignment everyone should go with their strongest skill set. Emma, I have seen both your 3D and your 2D, and I think you're really strong in both. Which one do you think you're strongest in?
I'd probably say 2D, the stickers and everything.
Okay.
3D modeling can be a lot sometimes.
Okay, that's fair. So if we stick to the 2D work, the stickers idea, where do you think is the best place to sell your stickers?
Probably Etsy. Etsy has like a lot of creators on there. I see a lot of like offers for stickers all the time.
Okay, so there's a lot of people selling stickers. Do you know who's buying?
Ah, well, usually, and this is kind of me basing it off of me, but when I go to buy stickers, I usually buy them for like my cups or my computer, just anywhere that I want to decorate something.
Okay. So I want to back up a little bit and discuss a couple of theories from psychology. One is it's called the availability heuristic. And what the availability heuristic is is that people tend to make decisions or assumptions based on the information that is available to them. So an example would be, let's say you hear something in the news about pit bulls. You hear that somebody was harmed by this vicious dog, this pit bull. That news is readily available in your brain, and so you may start to form an opinion like based on that available information. You decide that pit bulls are harmful and dangerous. If you look at the broader range of statistics, that's actually not true. So the news tends to put forward um, headlines that grab attention, right? And then people base their fears, their assumptions, their stereotypes on that available information without really doing their research. So in your case, Emma, your availability heuristic is your own, and this is the other term, ethnocentric fallacy. The ethnocentric fallacy is when we assume that everyone thinks and acts the way we do. And we know that that is also a false assumption. So and I'm not trying to pick on Emma here. These are broad psychological terms that we all fall into. Um, if you are, let's say I'm searching for a car, I want to buy a car, and I have done a little bit of research and I decided that a Toyota Corolla is the car that I want to buy. And I start noticing Toyota Corollas everywhere and they're on the streets, and every time I see one, I recognize it. Um, so that is like that availability heuristic and that ethnocentric fallacy that we start to, because we're interested in something or because it's what we know, we think everyone else is like that, and that is a fair assumption and that it would be successful. I think each of you need to, if you're going to sell on Etsy, you need to get into the analytics of Etsy, and they make those sales analytics available. You can go in and search for something and you can see the statistics on how many of that product is selling, how many views it has, etc. So just because, like, I'm doing a laser cutter business, or I'm starting one, I might think that, okay, there are a million products on Etsy for laser cutter things. So I think, wow, that's a really popular thing. Like, everybody must be buying laser cutter projects. When in fact, there are a ton of hobbyists who like laser cutting and they decide to try to sell their product. That does not mean that people are buying them. Okay, so Etsy is a fairly almost free platform. Anybody can put their stuff out there. It doesn't mean people are buying. Just because there's a glut of something on the market doesn't mean that you have a lot of buyers. So, for all of you that are thinking about a product, you need to research your competition and find out what is selling, not just what's being put out there as a potential sale. Does that make sense, Emma?
Yeah.
Okay. So I do agree that the your 2D art is fantastic, and I love the idea of the stickers, but I would not assume that just because a ton of people are putting their stickers up for sale that those are generating sales. So I would dig into Etsy's analytics and do a little more research on that, um, to be sure what your position is in the market.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to Casey. Casey, what is your product and where do you think you would sell it and why?
So I'm gonna be doing a 3D model bundle, and it's most likely gonna be for my witches objects that I made. I'm gonna make that into like some kind of bundle or kind of sell them individually. I'm thinking about selling them on Sketchfab because I've used Sketchfab before and I'm more familiar with it. And I was looking on the Sketchfab website and it shows you like they have videos on how to apply for a seller account and what kind of need to provide like more than 5 models to be able to make this seller account, and it tells you how to apply for it and what you need. I'm just more familiar with Sketchfab, and I like the fact that you can also copy and paste like a coding that you can put into your website, and you can like look at the model, the 3D model in your website too. And I also like that feature, so I'm kind of leaning towards more Sketchfab because I'm just more familiar with them.
I think that's a good strategy, and I am familiar with Sketchfab's ability to see your model in 3D on other websites. So I like that strategy of it becomes a portfolio piece and a potential avenue for sales. Have you done any research to see if you think it could actually be profitable?
Um, I've done, I've just looked at what they have on their website. I don't think I really looked into to see if it's good for profit wise.
Okay.
I think a lot of people like they either from what I've seen on Reddit, I see a lot of people say either the Blender market or Sketchfab.
Okay. I think that's pretty sound reasoning, and just for everyone's, understanding, you're not being evaluated on how much money you make, right? Like this is just an
Mm-hmm.
exercise to get everybody into that thought process. So whether or not your product makes money, that's kind of up to you how important that is to you. I think the more important thing for this class is that you're getting that experience. So I think that's a good avenue for you. I look forward to seeing you explore that. Okay, let's switch over to Spencer. Are you here with us now?
Sorry, I had to step away for a few minutes. I'm not feeling the greatest.
I'm sorry to hear that. Would you feel comfortable talking about your product and what avenue you've chosen to sell it?
Yeah. For now, I'm thinking I'm leaning more towards the pop-up card template idea. Um, and I looked at a few different sites. The names of them are eluding me right now, but I did settle on Etsy finally, just because a lot of the other sites either took a large commission from each of your sales or they had a subscription fee. Like the only other site that I saw that was actually free, aside from like Amazon or something, ended up taking like 50% of your profits.
Wow.
Um, so while I do have problems with Etsy, just lack of customization and way oversaturated markets, I do think it's probably still the best option just for how cheap and easy it is to use.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the Etsy sales analytics, but again, I would suggest you look into that as well. I
Okay.
think your product is a little bit more of a unique product. Have you looked to see how many people are doing pop up card templates?
Um, Let me look at that. Do a quick search. There's a few.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's a good avenue for you. Any other thoughts on that today that you wanted to share?
Um, I was also considering going into a comic book venture with one of my friends and launching that through Kickstarter. I don't know if that would be applicable to this class.
I think it would be. I think for the purposes of this class, you might need to just focus on one idea, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I look forward to seeing you develop that. And Oliver, how about you?
Uh, I'm probably just for the sake of what am I saying? All right, I forgot what I was saying. Sorry. I'm gonna do the 3D rigged models as I like passing them through Blender and such. I've used Vroid a lot. I've learned all of its nuances. I've even gotten a plugin that makes it so much easier to use. I can I think I can get out like at least one fully created model, maybe an extra outfit.
And how do you market those to the public?
I was going to I was gonna go on to Booth, which is a more international market. I think the main currency is yen, so probably not gonna sell for profits at least until I figure out something to work with that. Maybe PayPal. I've heard PayPal is something around that.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. You've got your product identified and you know where you're going to market it. And I think it's I mean, I don't know much about that particular market, but
Yeah, it is the when you're thinking about Vroid assets, most 90% of people are gonna say booth first because it's just where everything is.
okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts on your product. So let's jump back into Brightspace, and I'm going to show you your assignment this week. So this week we start to put rubber to the road. Um, this is it's kind of a vague assignment because it's going to differ for each person. So you,
Oh, if I could interject, I think we did skip Colton.
oh, Colton, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
You were at the top, and I thought I did yours. I apologize. Please tell us about your product and where you've decided to sell it.
I'll go really quick. I'm just gonna make that. I'm going with the idea with the basic uh, code templates for video games. Yeah, I want it to be basic, easily editable game dev packs is what I called it. I thought of either doing Fiverr or the other one was um, Creative Pool, but I ultimately went with the UE Marketplace because it's easier to sell those things, and the other ones are more of like customer requests. So I'd have to do what they want me to do rather than just make what I want and sell it. So I went with the UE Marketplace, and from my research, people say it's very profitable, especially if you make your templates and packs easily to work with and usable in almost every project, which is my goal. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go that route with the UE Marketplace, and I'm going to market it, especially using things like YouTube and Instagram, and then link my portfolio in all those places, especially YouTube because YouTube is one of the best places to show like how your um, template works and how to use it.
Okay. That sounds very well thought out. Are you going to focus on the skateboarding type assets, or do you have a niche?
I want to make things that I've always wished that I could have found, uh, especially for cheaper in the marketplace, such as if you ever want to like have like doors and like have them open and close and have like a lock system and stuff. There's like nothing there for that at all.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna make like templates like that, and if I can also make 3D assets for it, if I do also make 3D assets for my stuff, it wouldn't be a bad idea to also take those 3D assets and sell them at other places by themselves, such as CG Trader and SketchUp, just because get it broader. Because there's not many templates that include the code that you want with the assets that you might want to.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of
I love that branching strategy where you have a product that sort of branches off into other avenues. I think that's really smart. So yeah, I think that solving a problem in the marketplace is a great way to get noticed, to get sales, and to show potential employers your unique value add, your the thing that makes you special. So I think it's a really well crafted strategy that you're solving a problem, you're bringing your creativity to bear, and it has a potential for other avenues. So it sounds like a great project.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm sorry to Colton. I did not mean to skip over you. Um, so, looking at your assignment for this week, this is basically a work in progress assignment. Like I started to say, it is a bit vague because each of you have very different types of products and ways that you're going to sell them. Um, but basically, what you should be focusing on this week is developing your actual product. Whatever steps that you will be making, this will be your first draft or your prototype of your design. And we will review them in class next week. So I would plan to spend, a lab is generally 2 hours of time. I would, set aside 2 hours of your time to focus solely on your product. Um, so, like, if you are doing 2D artwork, then you should have your sketches and sort of your uh, first draft, maybe with some color. If you're designing something in 3D, have your rough level blocking or your sort of rough shape put out there. And then the way that you would submit that is, again, it's going to vary depending on your product. So obviously, if it's 2D, you might submit a JPEG. If it's 3D, maybe submit a screenshot or a link to your sketch fab. Maybe it's not live yet, or maybe you submit a YouTube video that just briefly goes over, hey, this is my blueprinting or this is my 3D model. So, however works best for you to show, like, hey, I did 2 hours of work on this project and this is where I'm at so far. So again, it's basically like a work in progress update. Are there any questions about the assignment?
Nope, I don't have any.
Okay. And just to look ahead to next week, just so you kind of know where we're going with all of that, if we look to next week, we're going to talk a little bit about AI and how that is increasingly becoming a concern for people in our workplace, and maybe even discuss how it's not just a concern, but maybe something that we can adapt to and find strategies to utilize it, instead of like running away from it because it seems like an inevitability. How can we adapt to it? And then your lab is, hopefully your product is, about 50 to 75% of the way towards being developed by then, and you're going to start putting your ideas into action by developing your brand and your website. So for some of you, you'll be creating an online store, or maybe you're going to set up your store page like on Etsy or Marketplace. What I would like to see, and this is not like next Sunday, this will be the following Sunday. So you've got like 2 weeks to do this part. You should have your logo. Some of you already have a logo for your brand. If you don't have one, probably want to start thinking about that ahead of time. You should have your logo optimized for the various places you'll be using it. So, for instance, if your logo needs a transparent background, then you need to have like a PNG or an SVG file. So you should have it available in various sizes for both print and web. So maybe you're going to put up flyers or, I don't know, t-shirts or something. Make sure you have a print version of your logo available, but probably more importantly for like web and social media. And then for your website, I think all of you have your own website for your portfolio. Is it set up to tie into your product? If not, you might need to tweak a few things. Now's a good time to start looking at how you're going to integrate your product into your personal website. So think about, where will your product go on your website? How will you feature it? You should make everything consistent. So you need to have your logo, your color palette, all your branding should be consistent. And now is the time that if you are setting up an online store, start creating those accounts. You don't necessarily have to have your product up and running, but at least make sure your account is set up so that you've worked through any issues you might have. You might need to set up payment. So, do you need to get PayPal or Venmo, or, how are you going to accept payment? So those are some things that I want you kind of thinking ahead, maybe not this week, but the following week. And so for that assignment, you're going to write a brief paper that will show your logo or your website banner, or the link to the site that you are developing. This can be under construction or in progress, but you're going to just basically describe what the website or online store is and what you'll be selling. And also, you should have at least one social media post that you can use to direct people to your point of sale. So you'll need to have that account information available to be able to put that on your social media post. You don't have to post it yet, but you need to begin thinking about, like, is this going to be an Instagram post, or maybe it's a YouTube video? So you need to kind of start thinking about what that's going to look like. So we're just taking steps down that road. We're just going to be continuing to make progress. Are there any questions about anything we've talked about today?
Well, I'm pretty good.
Okay. So, like I said, for this week, what you're doing is working on your prototypes for your product. Your first draft, your beginner model, um, you're starting to do your blueprints, whatever it is that you're doing. This is basically a work in progress update for us. And when we come back next week, you'll show it to the class, and we all get to finally see a little bit more about the products that you've been describing. Okay, so that's all I have for today. I've enjoyed talking to you all, as always, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with next week. Everybody have a good afternoon. Is anybody in Richmond coming in person for the 308 class this afternoon?
I'm not able to.
Okay,
I will be online on Discord.
okay. Okay, well, I will assume that everyone else in Richmond will probably be meeting from home today, so I'll just plan to be working from home as well. So, everybody have a good afternoon, and some of you I will see in the next class. Take care.
See ya.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.